everyone, it's Devin, and welcome to An Emo Girl's Guide to the Galaxy, where we debate, rant, and curse too much. If you like books, sarcasm, and hate the patriarchy, then you've come to the right place. Alright, well, it's time for our Around the Room updates, so I will kick things off and just talk about that I'm going camping, and I'm so excited to just have a trip away and to be in nature, so it's like outside of Disneyland, the one place I love to go and do things is nature and actually camp in a tent in a sleeping bag and be disconnected. So I'm excited because my retirement dream is to live in a cabin in the woods away from everybody and secluded and just have my big library and all of my dogs and just be alone.
No, I could not. I am not a camper. I am not one with nature. Or nature is not one with me. I'm not sure which direction it is, but I need to be in the city. I need my things and my people and my places and my city noises. That could not be my uncle being in the woods. I'd be murdered.
You haven't experienced falling asleep and all you hear is rushing water and just trees.
I would just be thinking I'm in the beginning of an episode of Supernatural and a Wendigo is going to come and kill me. And I would never fall asleep. This won't happen. So.
Is this the reservation that you woke up at 5 a.m. to get or something?
No, this is a different camping trip, but I am also still excited for that camping trip.
I'm excited for it. I could totally when I'm old, I can totally see myself living with a bunch of baby goats in the middle of a forest.
Yeah. Loretta and I will be living on a piece of land somewhere in the forest.
Yeah, and I'll just be at a brewery in my city, my pavements and high-rise.
This is the start of a rom-com where Erin has to drive to the cabin and she comes with all of her designer fashion clothes. She's like, what do you mean there's dirt?
She comes to visit us and she's like, y'all are crazy. And then she ends up meeting a Mountie or something.
And then he has to be like, girl, why are you wearing heels in the mud?
Yeah. She falls and rolls her ankle and somebody catches her and she looks up and it's the hot neighbor.
And I'm dragging my suitcase and it's all a disaster.
This is literally pretty much one of the what are they talking? The bearded romance ones that we talked about in the rom-com episode. Yeah. That's literally one of the brothers. He's a park ranger or something, and then this girl from the city comes in and he has to save her from an ankle. She rolls her ankle and he has to drive her back. Anyway.
I'd be just send me right back to the city, sir. I cannot be here.
Okay. Well, I will be camping. What's everyone else doing?
I am going into nature, but a very different way of going into nature. I have a beach trip coming up, so I'll be on the sand by the water, and then in back, it's not, there's going to be people everywhere. It is not really in the nature.
No murder today.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I feel when you tell people, I'm going to the beach, oh, you're going to have such a great, relaxing vacation. I'm I don't stop being a mom when I go to the beach. If they're coming with me, it's really not a vacation. It's just we're now doing everything.
We're just relocating.
In a different location, yeah. So I'm trying to think of it in my head we're going on a beach trip or a beach adventure because it is not about to be a beach vacation, but I'm excited regardless. Fun, yeah, it'll be fun. My oldest is 3, so it'll be kind of fun to see how he navigates the beach and if he hated the water last time, so we'll see if he is into it this time. And I have a 10-month-old who, God help us, I feel he's probably just be eating sand. I don't even know, so it's going to be a disaster, but hopefully it'll be also fun. So that's what I have coming up.
Sending you the good vibes.
Thanks, guys. I might need that.
All right, Loretta, what are you up to?
Also, I wanted to shout out Jess, who could not be here again because she's dealing with doggy and work things.
She's living her life.
But she's here with us in spirit. I actually won an ARC giveaway yesterday, so I'm super stoked about it. It's for a book called A Ruinous Fate by Kaylie Smith, and it's a YA book that's about the summary of it sounds very like Dungeons and Dragons meets Princess Bride.
I love that.
I'm here for it.
I think it's about this witch, and she has an exploit. There's some kind of prophecy. I don't know what the prophecy is, but there's some kind of prophecy, and I guess her ex screws her over and pushes her towards the prophecy, like fulfilling it, and she's like, nope, peace out. And she runs away into this forest, and then somehow she, like, gets involved with her ex again, and I guess all of these witches in this world have these dice, and they roll the dice to, like, decide their fate, quote unquote. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it sounds really dope, and I'm here for it 100%.
Yeah.
And so the actual book releases in January of next year, but I'm going to get an ARC soon, so I'll tell you guys how it is.
All right, and then, as Loretta said, Jess isn't here with us today. She's out living life, but she will be back hopefully next weekend. But those are our updates, so I'm going to pass it back to Loretta.
Yes, we're talking about time travel today. And so just like what books we've read about time travel and our thoughts about it, I wanted to start us off when I was looking at the books I've read for this. The first time travel-y book I read was the Mediator series by Meg Cabot. I was so all about Meg Cabot when I was like 13. She's like the only author I used to read. And she had this book about this girl who could see ghosts. And then she moves to a new town and they move into a new old house. And there's this guy haunting her room, and of course he's like super hot, and they have like they fall in love with each other, but they can't be together because he's a fucking ghost, and it's very dramatic. But I think at the end there is time travel involved, and that's like the first time travel-y book I read, so I wanted to shout that out.
Is that how they go back and make him not be a ghost? Because how the fuck else does that work out?
I mean, yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. That's how that works.
Like, how else is that gonna get resolved? If there's time travel and she's in love with the ghost, I can only imagine we have to go back and save him.
There's like 8 books in the series or something. It's a long series, but over the course of the series, she realized she doesn't just have powers for mediation to see ghosts. She has powers to, like, travel through time. And it's about her discovering how, like, these powers, and then she uses those powers to, like, get him back. Pretty much to her time.
Yeah.
That sounds like something I would have been obsessed with.
I really want to reread them, but I'm also very terrified that they will not hold up, and I don't want to ruin the nostalgia I feel when I think about them. But anyway.
When I was putting together my notes for this episode, I realized that I love time travel as a concept, and you guys know I'm always talking about, like, time travel stuff, or, like, alternate universes and all that, but I haven't actually read a lot of time travel books, but I have watched a lot of time travel
That's what
movies.
I was gonna say. I've mostly watched time travel stuff.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a mixture of, like, movie recommendations and book recommendations, I feel like, because I have a lot. And my first one is obviously Back to the Future, because Back to the Future 1 is my all-time favorite movie of all time. Like, I will rewatch Back to the Future over and over and over again. And I actually grew up, in the area or like surrounding areas where they shot the mall scene. So the mall, the Twin Pines Mall, and then the Lone Pines Mall after he runs over the tree, is a mall that's close by like my hometown. And when they did the Back to the Future Day, they had the Lone Pine Mall or Twin Pine Mall sign out, and they had Doc Brown's van out and all of the other stuff that you could take pictures with. And I was just like, my nerd self was like, oh, my one claim to fame is Back to the Future, of course. Like, I'm obsessed with this movie.
It's so good, though.
I will argue that time travel rules follow Back to the Future rules and not freaking Avengers Endgame rules.
I still don't completely understand the Avengers time travel rules.
I can explain it, because I had trouble too after I saw it, and I had to have conversations with other nerds and then, like, read it. So, the difference between Back to the Future time travel and Avengers time travel is that Back to the Future theory keeps in mind only one timeline, right? So if you are on one timeline and you go to the past or you go to the future or whatever, wherever you go in time, right? You're always going to travel back to that same point in time because there's only one timeline. So whatever you do in the past affects your future because there's only one linear time to go back to. So you can't mess with the past because it'll affect the future. In Avengers Endgame, they don't say that time is linear. Time is all over the place. You can have multiple timelines, you can have multiple universes, you can have all of this other stuff. And so once you leave your present self, that point in time becomes your past. And so it can affect your future self. So if you change anything in the past, what you're really doing is you're creating new timelines and you're creating all of these new variations of time, but you're not affecting your timeline because it's now your past self. Because time keeps moving, right? And as time keeps moving, you go back to your same version of life.
Weird.
And if you affect anything else in the past, you now have all of these different ripples in time that you create, which leads off into the rest of the Marvel universe, right? Because not spoilery for anybody who hasn't seen any of the newer stuff in the Marvel's universe, but because of all of the things that happen when they go back in the past, you now have all of these ripple effects that happens, and that's why we have more shows and more movies and things like that, because they change so many things. And now you're living with all of these alternate versions of people and events and things like that, because you're now living in a universe where multiple timelines and universes and all of these things can live in tandem.
That makes a lot
versus
more sense.
In Back to the Future, it's more simple, where it's one timeline for everybody forever, and it's circular, whatever. So when you go back, you change the past, you change the future. When you go back to the future, everything's different. So you have to go back, figure out what you changed when you go to the future.
I like both of those concepts as entertainment, but I think I would probably subscribe to the Marvel Universe one more, like in terms of like what I think is true.
See, I subscribe to the Back to the Future one more for real life.
Yeah, I do too. I think I would mix them up to have my own version, because I subscribe to Back to the Future, but I also want to believe that there's a version of myself living out somewhere, like living her best life.
I do like that part.
She's a millionaire.
Yeah.
She has like a 2-room library. Like, she's out there.
She exists.
I went through this phase for a while where I was like super into like quantum physics. Those words came out of my mouth.
Just casually.
Not like actually doing quantum physics. I don't like fully understand it, but like in more just in terms of being like, this is incredible that like any of this makes sense to anyone, and that this is like real science. So I was like, I've like watched a lot of documentaries. I read some books about like quantum science, physics. I don't know. And the science backs up that there's like multiple dimensions and universes and realities.
Yeah.
So I can't unknow that now. But
terrifying.
That's the thing. So,
and I will go into an existential crisis if I think about that too long.
Yeah. I'm gonna like call myself out with this, but I'm on that side of TikTok where people talk about how they've had experience with alternate timelines, and like
how
that explains what's it called, the Mandela effect, where you remember something and then you realize that it's not actually how you remember it. And it's because the way that some people explain it away, is that like that version of your memory actually exists, but it exists in like a different version of yourself's universe.
Oh, cool.
So like you cross paths with a different version of yourself, and that version of yourself remembers their reality, and their reality had that version of what you remember.
Weird.
So like they remember it being the Bernstein Bears instead of like the Bernstein Bears or whatever it is, whatever that version. Berenstain, yes.
I always called it Bernstein. I can't get.
I know.
That version of you exists. That reality exists. It's just not this reality. So that version of you jumped timelines or whatever and ended up here, and that's why you have that memory. Is because that version of you, that is their reality. Which, like, I don't know if I believe that or not, but some people believe that.
It's fun to speculate, for sure.
It's fascinating.
Okay, well, so on the like concept of like the different types of timeline travel, another movie that does like the Back to the Future kind of timeline is The Butterfly Effect. Did you guys see that?
I love that movie with Ashton Kutcher.
Movie fucked me right up. Like, it really did.
It's a crazy movie, but it's really good.
I love that movie.
I will just randomly think about that movie and be like sick into my stomach about it, because it was like he would like had, I don't know, him and his dad both had this ability, if they like read old journals or watched old videos or whatever, they could like go back in time to that point and then make changes. And then he just kept making changes, and like things just kept getting worse and worse, and like horrible things were happening, or like, oh, this part's really good, but then this part's really bad, and then it would like all blow up, and he had to keep trying to like fix it. So that's kind of like, I mean, he didn't use like a car to get there, but it's kind of like Back to the Future. Like he went into the past, and then it like affected things in the future.
God, I haven't seen that in so long. I need to rewatch it.
It's so good. So good.
I think I was too young when I saw it, or just not. I was too...
Yeah, I probably was too.
Also, Logan Lerman is in that movie, I think, as like a younger version of Ashton Kutcher, and that was like...
Oh, is he?
But yeah, I think he is. He's like a younger... Logan Lerman is Percy Jackson.
Oh, okay.
or the original Percy Jackson. He's not Percy Jackson anymore. I also, have you guys seen the movie Timeline with Paul Walker and Gerard Butler?
I love that movie.
This is what I love about the time travel concept of, like, yes, it may not be accurately how you would explain time travel or, like, what happens, but it's always, like, that plot twist where you're, like, people in the present day time or the future are trying to figure out, like, a mystery. Like, oh, yeah, it's a mystery hidden in time. Like, nobody knows what happened. And then there's, like, a time travel plot and they have to go save somebody, or then there's, like, a romance and somebody has to get stuck back in time, and then you go back to the future and you're like, everything makes sense now. It was really us the whole time, or like we were there. And I'm like, I love it so. Like, you exist in multiple times because of time travel, and I don't know what it is about that concept that makes me just like get so excited. And I'm like, I love this. I love this so much.
Like, time travel can be so fun to, like, I don't know, watch, sometimes read about, but like, in general, like, if I think too hard about it, though, it makes me really mad because the paradoxes just kill me. Like,
yeah, sometimes it's just like a circle.
None of
like,
that's what happened then. If you knew what happened, then you didn't know what happened, then how could you have known it happened? And if it always happened, then how do you have free will? Yeah. And then, like, I get so in my head about it.
I think about this too. And I think that that's why I watch time travel stuff versus read it, because it's so complex, and in order to do it really well, you need to explain all of the, like, intricacies of it, or like at least some of the details. So when you're sitting there having to read about the theory and stuff, you're like, okay, let's just get to the action. But then if they don't explain the theory, you're like, how does this even work? It makes no sense. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
there's 3 books that I have read and I liked that are, like, based in time travel have a sort of similar concept where the people are sort of, like, outside of time. They can, like, go into it and, like, impact it, but they're sort of like, here's time, or the timeline, or however you want to look at it, and they're kind of almost like outside of it, or like I don't know, they're not like, I'm here and then oops, I went back in time, or they're like in a time machine. The one is called The End of Eternity by Isaac Asimov, and that's like old sci-fi, and it's so good. But I'm gonna mess it up, but they're like in this place called Eternity, I'm pretty sure, and they have all these people like working, and they like analyze all the different histories and stuff, and they like make changes because they're like, oh, well, if this thing got invented here, then the probabilities all change, and then like the world ends way too early, so we like can't let this person invent Coca-Cola, or like something like that, right? And then it's like they're making all these little minor changes, and they have these like agents that are like there for a long time, and then they have ones that go in and out, and they have the people here to like work on everything, but then like they can't go past a certain like year. They're like way into the future, like it just is blank, or it's like there's a block, like this like way that they travel, like they can't get to it, and they're like either the people in the far future are like blocking us because they don't want us to know what happens, or we're all dead and we just didn't make it and we don't know how to like change it or be able to get there. And then there's like this whole crazy thing where I think like in the end they have to like go into the past, like way far into the past to like mess with stuff. But I love like sort of the message of it about like they were trying to make too many changes and they just needed to let things sort of like naturally progress. But that was really cool. And then there's another one I read called Off to Be the Wizard by Scott Meyer, which I think could have been a lot better, but it was like this guy in the 80s, like so he hacks into some kind of like computer program, which ends up being like reality's program, so he can change things, like he can make himself big and small, like literally in a computer program, as if he was like a computer character, because he found his like coding, so he can like recode himself, and then he can use that to like code himself into different time. And then he finds other people in the past that are like from different times that did the same thing. They like hacked into the code, but you can't go more into the future than your time. You can only go into the past. But that was really that one was really cool because they're like kind of like all sort of like outside of time almost, and like, oh, we just go here, and they don't impact time, they just go there and hang out, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think they can, like, fully influence it. And then another one that I read so long ago that I barely remember, but it was that same kind of thing where they're, like, on sort of, they're, like, time travelers who just, like, are kind of outside of time, and they go in and, like, do little things, called A Tale of Time City. And this is by the lady who did the, House Moving Castle, Diana Wynne Jones. And I remember just loving that one because they would, like, go, they'd, like, the people that travel, they'd be like, oh, I, like, really miss this one treat or food that's like in this time, so they would like want to go there just so they can go have that food that didn't exist in other places.
I could see myself
as a kid
that.
I just remember being like, this is so fun. But again, it's like more like they're just sort of like almost like outside observers, like coming in and like tinkering with it.
They're there for vibes.
Yeah.
The nostalgia. See, I much prefer the changing of time and, like, the whole concept of, like, if I mess with this, what does it do? And, like, how does that affect my reality? I read the Umbrella Academy Suite, the graphic novels by Gerad Way, and I forget the artist's name, but those are really good. And the concept of, like, the first part of that, which obviously they also have the Netflix show, so if you don't want to read the graphic novels, go watch the show. But the kids have to go back in time to try to stop the assassination of JFK, which I've read and seen a lot of time travel stuff around this one particular moment in history, and I don't know what it is about the assassination of JFK that, like, fascinates people, but a lot of people are like, I'm gonna do something about stopping, like, what would have happened if he never was assassinated, but those are really good. And then also Stephen King wrote a time travel book about the same concept. Like, there's a time traveler who attempts to stop the assassination of JFK, and that is called 11/22/63. So if you're looking for more adult horror, contemporary, like that kind of vibe, and you like Stephen King, that's a really good one. But it's chunky, it's thick, so
I feel like
just
all
know
of those
that
books are thick.
you're in for the long haul with that one. And then I'm going to switch back and forth between movies and books because there's so many. But it's, what is it called? About Time with Rachel McAdams.
Oh, yeah.
I Googled this because I thought that it would be a story, but it was a movie first. And I was like, how is this not a rom-com book? Like, this is a really good story. Like, it's cute.
I'm liking that movie.
That movie was cute, yeah.
Yeah, the concept, so if anybody hasn't seen the movie, it's about a family where all of the men can travel back in time. But I think that they can only affect, like, their life, or they can't change anything. I don't remember, like, the details about their time travel, but it's only the men. And when the main character finds out that he can do that, he, like, tries to use his powers to, like, find himself a girlfriend or something like that.
And they can't go back too far. It's only like 24 hours or something, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things I loved most about that movie is that he ends up, he keeps traveling back in time to fix things so he can get Rachel McAdams. I can't remember her name in the movie. And then when he finally does, they get married and they have a kid, and then something happens after they have a baby, and he wants to go back and fix it, and then he realizes that if he goes back before the baby, she'll have a different baby.
Oh, so he could go further,
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, because, like, what are the odds that you get the same child again? I mean, that's impossible.
I remember this. Yeah, so then the director actually made, like, a story tie-in, like a book tie-in to the movie, so if you do want a book version, that is available. I don't know how good it is, because I haven't read it, but that was, like, a time travel rom-com movie that I really enjoyed. Also, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
God,
you gotta shout out the comedies.
Have you seen the new one? I haven't seen the new one.
I haven't yet.
I haven't.
I'm scared of
but
it.
Every time I drive through San Dimas, like if I'm on the freeway and I see San Dimas signs, I always have to be like, San Dimas High School football rules! Because of
69
that movie.
dudes.
Or like, it's like, oh yeah, that's Socrates. You can look him up under Socrates. Like, okay, got it. This is so good. And then also Meet the Robinsons, because it is the most underrated Disney movie of all time.
Is.
Keep moving forward. It's so cute. It made me cry, and it's so funny. And I wish more people were, like, obsessed with that movie as much as I am. But time travel, Disney movie at its finest. Everybody go watch it.
I have to bring up Outlander. I mean, how can we not bring up Outlander?
Yeah, how can we not talk about Outlander?
I watched the show first, and then I read the book. And then I got bored of the book because the book one follows season one of the show, like, actually really closely. So I was reading it and I was like, I can't. It took me like 6 months to read the book because I had already seen it. But seasons like 1 and 2 are good, and then it like spins out of control. I don't know. What do you think, Deb? You've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I also haven't read the series yet, just because I don't want it to turn into another Game of Thrones where you're, like, reading and watching and then comparing everything. So I'm doing all of one first, and then maybe I'll get into the books later. But for me, it's enjoyable. There's a lot of, like, iffy scenes that I get it, that it's the past, but you don't need
so much rape.
Yeah, and like beating and all of that
and I get
stuff.
It, like it's the past, but oh my god. By like season 4, I'm like, oh, can we not?
That's my thing. I feel like if I got the choice of like, do you want to travel back in time or do you want to travel into the future? Like, I'm picking future 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what's up, and also it's like real bad in the past.
I know.
Yeah, but
as a woman.
But then you also have to think about like the future is never set in stone. Like no matter what kind of time travel theory that you're into, they all agree that like your future can change.
I know, but if I got a choice to travel there, I'd still want to go see.
You travel into the future and it's Handmaid's Tale.
Oh god.
Yeah, and you're like, what do I have to change in order to make sure this doesn't happen? I'm also still reading the book that I mentioned last weekend called Stilling Infinity, and the main character has the ability to travel in time, but she can also, like, the way that they explain it, it's called the unraveling, so sometimes she can see the past happening in the present, I guess, so it's kind of like a vision, so if she's staring at a certain spot, sometimes, like, she'll just reimagine what happened in the past in that specific spot. So, one example she gives is, like, she goes home and she opens the kitchen door and she sees her parents standing there arguing about her being born, and she realizes that she's looking at the past, which I think is actually really cool, like, the ability to see the past but not be there, like, you just see it as a hologram or some type of vision, I guess, which I think is really cool.
Super cool.
So yeah, Stilling Infinity, I'm not done yet, but so far so good. I like it, and I like the whole, like, trying to figure out the past and how that affects your present day and stuff. And I also just really like that in time travel stories, the nerds are the ones who save the day.
Yeah.
Like, the smart people who are like, how, like, are you kidding me? They never do that in 14th century France.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, what? You know, we don't talk like that. Like, they're the ones who make sure everybody survives and, like, doesn't get accused of being witches and stuff.
Yeah, they know how to dress
just because they're
for
smart
the time
and nerdy.
And, like, get everyone's...
Yeah, they're like, oh, I know exactly where we need to go. I studied this. Like, I'm an expert. And then, like, the brawny big guys with guns are like, what do I do?
And even, like, the nerds knowing that, like, well, if we do this, then we're going to cause a paradox and the whole universe is going to explode, so we can't do that. Like, they're the ones keeping everybody safe.
Yeah, they just know. Like, they're the heroes in time travel stuff,
Definitely.
and I love it.
I just wanted to shout out, I started reading a book for this episode called The Shield and the Thistle by Jillian Bondarchuk, and it's really cute. I found it because I follow Merwild. Oh God, I had to think about that. I follow Merwild, who is an artist, and she does a bunch of bookish art and stuff, and she has her own books out too, but I follow her, and she did the cover for the second book in this series that I read, and I was like, that's really pretty, what is that? So then I looked it up and I realized it was a time travel series, and it's very like Outlander-y, but it's super cute, and this girl visits her grandma in Ireland, and then she like falls through she falls down into some cave or something, but somehow that makes her travel through time, and then she's wandering around and she's like, what is happening? And then she figures out she's in the past, and then she falls in love with like an Irish oh my god, the word just completely fell out of my head, but he like wears a kilt all the time. And anyway, I'm not all the way through it, but it's really cute, so I just wanted to shout it out.
I think those are like so interesting, the differences of like purposefully traveling through time and then like accidentally just being like, what the fuck just happened? Like, where am I? Those are two very different time travel stories.
I have one written down too that I listened to the audiobook of a long time ago, and I can't remember the end of it for the life of me, but it's called Wishing for a Highlander, and I vividly remember the beginning because it's about a girl who's pregnant, and she I forget what happens to the father of the baby, but he's not in the picture at all. And she is a historian, and she's in South Carolina working on some like medallion or something, and she says out loud like, oh, I wish I could have a man from the past or something, and it makes her travel through time, and she lands in like a battle. It's like the middle of a battle, and all these men are fighting, and she's preggers, and she's running around like, what is happening? And she's freaking out, and this guy's like, "Are you okay?" And then he like helps her out, but it was hilarious. Anyway,
I also, because you mentioned like the falling through time, and then also Outlander. So I started watching this show called The Nevers, which I think there's only one season right now. And I will also tell everybody to like watch that if you're into time travel, and like just stick with it. It'll take a while, but you'll understand why I'm saying to watch this if you like time travel. Like that. And it has a girl that plays Jenny from Outlander, so Jamie's sister.
It takes a complete turn. And I was like,
it is crazy.
What's happening? But it's so cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I think I made you watch that because I was like, am I crazy?
Yeah, it's so good. And I don't even know if it's back or if there's going to be another season or what, but like that story is really unique and I really liked it, so.
Nice. My show recommendation is still Future Man with Josh Hutcherson. And
I wanted to see that.
I need to watch that.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Hutcherson.
It's so funny. They just like are messing up time, and it's just hilarious. It's like these people come back in time. They're like, "We need you to help us save the future," because he's like good at a video game. And they're like, "You're a warrior." He's like, "No, not. I'm a nerd who just plays video games." And then it's just hysterical. So that is definitely my. And they just are messing up all the timelines, and everything is just a mess. But it's good fun. It's good fun.
I love that. And if you're looking for like serious sci-fi that'll make you cry, also Interstellar is really good.
I never saw that.
I cried so hard at the end and like in the middle and
so
in the beginning and all the times.
It's still so good. It's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to get into our game now?
Yes.
All right.
Do it.
So I am taking over for the game. It is just completely invented this, but it is a timeline mishap sort of would you rather. So we're imagining we've gone back in time and we've made some change, whether purposefully or accidentally, that now has made some kind of ripple into the future that there's another change. And so you're going to decide, would you rather keep it as is or stick with that change that you've accidentally or purposefully made?
I love this.
Got it?
Okay,
All right,
I'm
so
ready.
I'm going to do this one first because we mentioned the JFK thing. So we go back in time and JFK was never assassinated, but then Sarah J. Maas was never born.
Oh, man.
Oh, well, what are the implications of him not being assassinated?
Sure,
like,
just that Sarah J. Maas was never born.
I love that it's the only outcome.
That's the only thing that's different. Everything else is the same.
if everything else is the same and there's literally no other changes other than that one, then I'm gonna say, like, sorry, you gotta go.
We've already dealt
Sarah
with your
J.
death.
Maas is more important to me. Yeah, I wasn't around. I don't know.
You were supposed to go anyway. It's, sorry, man.
Probably realistically there would be other changes, but I didn't feel like doing all the research on what that would mean. Coming up with all the hypotheticals.
If we're living in today's society where like we're losing rights and like there's might be a recession, who knows? Like I'm gonna stick with having Sarah J. Maas around.
We need her to.
At least I can live in my fantasy world. Yeah.
All right. So the next one, this one does touch on the women issues a little bit. So you went back in time, and now women never won the right to vote, but all women have evolved superpowers.
I'm gonna go with superpowers. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if that makes me like less of a feminist, because I can use my superpowers to like get rid of all of the gross men, and then we would just take over.
Yeah,
like we wouldn't need to vote because we would just control everything.
Got superpowers like Matilda because we were just so furious at how everyone was treating us that we just like got superpowers, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna imagine that in this world we don't need the right to vote just because we're like the overlords and then like men are slaves or something. I don't know.
You're just in charge.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The next one. Jeans were never invented, but now all men. It's fashionable that all men wear makeup.
No.
I hate jeans. I'm down for this reality.
I don't want to have to wear dresses every day. What about leggings? Are leggings and shorts an option?
You can still wear pants. Pants are invented, not jeans.
Okay, if I have pants or leggings or shorts, then I don't need the jeans. Men can be wearing makeup. That's fine.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I changed my vote. I changed my vote.
That.
No
I'd
jeans.
love to see a world where all men wear makeup.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. Trump was never born. Okay, but now the U.S. is problematically infested with orangutans.
Trump was never born, like 100%.
I'd rather deal with the orangutans.
100%, yeah.
Same. But I was trying to think of something so ridiculous.
I was like, is this like Planet of the Apes style? Like, I probably would even take Planet of the Apes over Trump at this point.
They're everywhere. Like, they're going to be like a nuisance. You have to like go out, like prepared for. I was trying to think of something like not
get your
too,
monkey armor on.
Yeah, not too gross, not too safe, not too dangerous. I don't know. It was orangutans just came to mind.
I mean, like orangutans probably could like kill people if there are a lot of them.
And maybe I have the connection of like
that.
He's orange, orangutans are orange. Alright, I have two more. So we've gone back in time, and whatever change we've made, now white men can no longer run for president, but avocados have gone extinct.
I'll take the white man.
I would take a white man not being able to run for president.
I'll give up avocados.
Yeah.
Wow, we're getting really into it today. We're gonna offend some people with our answers.
We know what to do. All right. This is the last one. So we go back in time, and whatever we've done, emo music was never invented. No pop punk.
Oh no.
But humans can now live for 200 years.
I don't think I need to live that long. I think I'm fine with like 100 years or less.
It's a hard one for me because I really want to live a really long time because I want to see the future. If I could just travel to the future, then that would be fine. So then maybe it doesn't matter because if I went to the past, maybe I can't go to the future, and then we can keep emo music.
I don't know.
Loretta's like really contemplating.
I think I take the 200 years.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that.
We could make our own emo music. We could. The ones who
My
invent
answer is going to be based on whether or not you live for 200 years and you still get old. Like, do I have to live 200 years and be old?
No, it would just like drag it out. So you'd be like, like how you are in your 20s would be like 2 decades of that. Like everything gets like or something like that. I feel like it would just get drug out. Like you're not going to be like old person for
the same
process.
Okay, if I can live as a young person longer, then I guess 200 years would be cool.
Yeah. All right. So that's the end of my weird timeline mishap. Would you rather? It was really hard to do this and not think of just like super dark things because it's like, what would you go back in the past and change? Like typically like really bad things. So I was like, I need to like balance this out with some like not super dark.
Yeah, fun stuff.
I'll miss avocados, but in the end, I think it's worth it. All right, well, so that's our episode, guys, on time travel. We'll see you next week. Make sure you follow us on all the things at Emo Girls Guide, and may your day be blessed with main character energy.
Main character energy.